Part 34. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 331. I turned around suddenly and saw that the entire town was collapsing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The screams of fierce ghosts filled the entire world. As expected, the city god took action and wiped the entire town from the world. I didn't stay any longer, turned around and left here side by side with Su Tianxian. Keep walking along the main road of the town, and you will see a dark tunnel entrance. I came to the entrance of the tunnel and looked up at the name of the tunnel. Fengming Tunnel. I looked behind me and found that the road I came from had disappeared and was replaced by a wilderness. It seems that the world maintained by yin qi and resentment has collapsed, and I have returned to the real world. Su Tianxian and I walked out of the tunnel. Found my abandoned car in the tunnel. I drove out of the tunnel, and at an intersection Su Tianxian suddenly said to me, "Lu Su, let's say goodbye here." I stopped the car, turned around, glanced at Su Tianxian, and said, "Master, pay attention to safety." Su Tianxian nodded slightly, then opened the car door and left. I sighed, then started the car again and headed back to Jiyuntang along the road. The girl sat in the passenger seat and looked at the scene outside the window with some curiosity. This look was exactly the same as when Huaxiu had just come into contact with the world. I asked, "What's your name?" The girl turned her head, blinked her big eyes and replied, "Brother, just call me Xiaoyui." I nodded and moved on. I looked at the time, it was past 4 in the morning, still some time before dawn. It was dark on both sides of the road, and in the glow of car lights I could reach down to the weeds on the road. Suddenly, the sound of the car engine stopped and the car lights went out instantly. I frowned and turned off the engine again. I turned the key and found it wouldn't start at all. I got out of the car, opened the front hood, checked it carefully, and found nothing unusual. Xiaoyui also got out of the car, then blinked at me and asked curiously, "Brother, what's wrong?" I reached out my hand, rubbed her little head and said, "There's just something wrong with the car." I looked around, and it was pitch black, and I couldn't see my fingers. It was so dark that it made me feel panicked. I took out my cell phone and planned to ask Ruohong for help. The phone rang for a while before it was answered. "Hello? Who is it?" "It's me, Lu Su." Ruohong's voice was a little unclear. "Lu Su, you came to torment me again in the middle of the night." A wry smile appeared at the corner of my mouth, and I said apologetically, "Sorry, something happened to me. Please drive to pick me up." I told Ruohong about my car breaking down. While Ruohong and I were talking, my eyes kept looking around. Suddenly a black outline suddenly appeared not far away. I frowned. How could there be anyone here this late at night? As I spoke, I observed the black shadow. The black shadow approached me from far to near, very slowly, and the sound of wheels turning was faintly heard in my ears. The sound sounds like a bicycle. "Hey! Lu Su, why aren't you talking? Where are you now so I can pick you up?" Ruohong's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. "To be honest, I don't know where I am now. Wait a moment, I'll send you the location." With that said, I opened the chat software and wanted to give Ruohong her location, but just when I was about to click send, the phone screen suddenly went black. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 332. It's a little weird that this phone is going off. The phone still has a lot of power, so it can't be turned off suddenly. I tried to open the phone, but found that it could not be opened after several attempts. Just when I wanted to give up, a cold light suddenly burst out from the phone screen. I clicked the screen a few times, but nothing happened. At this time, the screen changed again, and a bloody light enveloped my face. Immediately afterwards, 6 big blood-red characters for me suddenly appeared on the phone screen. When I saw these 6 words, I broke out in a cold sweat. I suddenly turned my head and looked behind me, seeing nothing but darkness. I focused my eyes on the screen again. On the screen, those 6 big blood-red characters clearly read, "I am right behind you." The word blood is so scarlet that it feels like it was actually written in blood. I suddenly felt someone tugging at the corner of my clothes. I frowned and looked to one side. When I saw it was Xiaoyui, I breathed a long sigh of relief. Xiaoyui's beautiful eyebrows were tense, and her eyebrows were full of vigilance. When I saw this, I asked, "What's wrong?" Xiaoyui looked around and replied, "Brother, the ghost baby seems to be nearby." My brows instantly knitted into a Sichuan shape. Did the ghost baby come to your door so soon? I looked at the phone screen and was convinced that this was what the ghost baby was doing. While Xiaoyui and I were talking, the black shadow directly in front of the road got closer and closer, and there was a faint beam of light. Hucka, wheeze. In the silent night, I suddenly remembered the sound of heavy breathing. I stared closely at the dark shadow, and the light became brighter and brighter. When I saw the black shadow clearly, I let out a long sigh of relief. It was an old man with silver hair, riding a tricycle, and he was riding towards me with great effort. I didn't feel any yin energy in the old man's body. It looked like he was a living person. The old man came to me quickly. He stopped the car and asked with some confusion, "Young man, why are you standing here? You look scary." I looked at the old man and after confirming that he was a living person, I replied, "The car broke down." After answering the old man's question, I asked, "Grandpa, you too, why did you come out so late?" The old man laughed and said, "Young man, it's not too late. It's almost 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm on my way to sell tofu at the morning market in the city." Going to the city to sell tofu? I looked inside the old man's tricycle, and sure enough, there were pieces of white tofu neatly arranged. I immediately realized something was wrong and went to the city to sell tofu, but why did I have to go back? I asked the doubts in my mind. After hearing this, the old man replied with a smile, "When I was going uphill just now, my son helped me push the cart. He was afraid that I would catch a cold and gave me his coat to wear. Then he said that he was going home to get something. I touched my pocket. I still have his cell phone with me. I just want to give it to him." As he said that, the old man took out his mobile phone from his pocket. Along with the mobile phone, he took out wads of banknotes. I glanced at the thing in the old man's hand. It didn't matter. My head buzzed and I broke out in a cold sweat. Under the dim light of the old man's flashlight, the red banknotes looked particularly dazzling. It was this light that allowed me to see the words on the banknotes clearly. TND Bank. This is paper money. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 333. The old man is undoubtedly a living person, but why did he take out a wad of paper money from his pocket? I began to look at the old man carefully. The old man is in his early 60s, with silver hair, wrinkles on his face, and a look of exhaustion on his brows. He is obviously an old man struggling with life. My eyes suddenly noticed the clothes the old man was wearing. The old man was wearing a black leather jacket, which was fashionable but full of wrinkles. The leather jacket was normal, but the aura it gave off was very ominous. Because I was keenly aware that this leather jacket was filled with a strong yin energy. Yin, could it be that this was a piece of clothing worn by a dead person? The old man is still chattering. Why do you think my son is so careless? He left his cell phone behind. What should I do if I come to him for something? I looked at the old man, hesitated, and said, "Old man, look at the banknotes in your hand." The old man looked at his hand with some confusion. It didn't matter. The old man threw the phone and the money out with a cry. In an instant, blood-red paper money was flying all over the sky like heavy snow. The old man pointed at the paper money that fell on the ground and shouted in horror, "What the hell is going on?" Everything in front of me, my first reaction was that the ghost baby was responsible. However, until now, I have not seen the shadow of the ghost baby. Just when I was wondering, I suddenly heard the sound of slight footsteps. With a serious look on my face, I looked in the direction of the sound. The footsteps sounded behind me. The road behind him was pitch black without any light, just like a huge, dark, bottomless black hole. The footsteps were dull and rhythmic at the same time, as if a robot was walking. The interval between each step and the landing time were surprisingly consistent. The old man also heard the footsteps. He stepped forward and shouted, "Son! Is that you?" The footsteps stopped suddenly in the darkness. At this time, Xiaoyui nervously took my hand, pointed at the darkness and said with some horror, he is right there. I know who Xiaoyui is referring to. That must be a ghost baby. My expression instantly became extremely nervous. You must know that this ghost baby is the reincarnation of a ghost king and can command the existence of hundreds of ghosts. Footsteps sounded again, and this time the sound seemed to be less than 10 meters away in front of me. The old man couldn't control his inner emotions. He picked up the flashlight on the tricycle and started walking into the darkness. I quickly stopped it. The old man looked at me with some confusion. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped suddenly again, and the whole world returned to dead silence again. The sound of footsteps disappearing and appearing is simply too torturous. My heart felt like I was on a roller coaster, reaching the top for a while and then suddenly falling down. "Young man, that might be my son, let me go and see." Before the old man finished speaking, I interrupted him. "Old man, you'd better stay here, something may have happened to your son." As soon as these words came out, the old man's face froze, and his cloudy eyes were filled with a little anger. "Impossible. My son is fine, how could something happen?" I sighed helplessly, and was about to explain it to the old man, but the old man stretched out his hand, pointed at my back, and said, "Look. Isn't my son right behind you?" Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 334. I looked stern, turned my head stiffly, and looked to the right. My pupils trembled violently, and I saw a pale white face without any blood appearing on my right shoulder. When did he come behind me? Why didn't I notice anything? Under the dim light, the pale human face looked very strange. He slowly rolled his eyes and stared at me with his dark pupils. I couldn't see any human emotion in his eyes. It feels like a man-made doll. I quickly distanced myself from him and pulled Xiaoyui behind me. I stared at this man closely. This man was about the same age as me, with pale skin and a numb expression. The man's whole body exuded a deathly aura, without any yin energy at all. How is this going? People have popularity, ghosts have yin qi. This man is like an object, with no breath at all. The old man hurriedly came to the man, looked at me angrily, and said, "You young man. Why are you cursing my son? Isn't this a good thing for my son?" I didn't say anything, just stared at the man quietly. The old man took the man's hand and said, "Son, let's go." At this moment, the old man forgot about the paper money because of the anger in his heart. The man's hand was pulled up by the old man, and then there was a creaking sound in the air. I frowned more and more, and the voice seemed to come from the man's shoulder. The man's upper body was wearing a white vest with 2 ribs. When the old man was pulling the man, the light in his hand just hit the man's shoulder. This beam of light made me completely understand what a man is. There is an obvious gap between the man's shoulder and his arm, and there are also slight cracks on his arm. In addition, Moss actually grew on the cracks. This man is not alive. Not a ghost either. But a doll. As soon as I had this idea, I saw a black shadow flashing through the darkness, as if it was climbing up the man's shoulder. The next moment, a pale and withered hand stretched out from behind the man. My expression condensed. It's that ghost baby. Seeing this, I quickly stepped forward and pulled the old man behind me. The old man was even more angry by my move. He shouted at me, "What the hell is going on with you, young man? You cursed my son at first. Is it possible that you want to fight me now?" I grabbed the flashlight from the old man's hand and shined it directly on the man. "Look. Is he still your son?" The dim light of the flashlight shone directly on the man. The true appearance of the man is revealed. I saw that the man's exposed skin was all wood, but it was very pale. In addition, there were shocking cracks on the man's arms and thighs. There are also the man's facial features, which are clearly carved, but the carving is so lifelike that it can be mistaken for the real thing. When the old man saw this scene, he screamed and collapsed to the ground. He pointed at the puppet in front of him tremblingly and stammered, how could it be like this?" The corners of the puppet's mouth raised slightly, revealing a very strange smile. His movements were very stiff and mechanical, and could not be done by humans at all. Suddenly, the puppet's eyeballs move crazily, so fast that it can't be caught with the naked eye. It was at this time that a pale little face appeared from behind him. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 335. When I saw this face clearly, I broke out in a cold sweat and was extremely horrified. That ghost thing around the puppet's neck is indeed a ghost baby. But what surprised me was how fast the ghost babies grew. When he was in Yin Yang Ghost Town, he was just a baby and could only crawl. And now he has grown into a child. He looks like 5 or 6 years old. Does this damn thing grow so fast? The ghost baby squatted quietly on the puppet's shoulders, looking at me with eyes full of resentment. The puppet slowly opened his mouth and said word by word, "Dad, quickly, get out of here quickly." The puppet's voice is hoarse and ugly, without any emotion, just like a repeater. I was slightly startled. The puppet still maintained its consciousness. The old man shouted heartbreakingly at the puppet, "Son. What's wrong with you?" I glanced at the old man and said, "Your son is dead." The old man's expression was stagnant, and he stared blankly at the puppet. 2 clear tears fell from his cloudy eyes, and then he rolled his eyes and fainted. It was a good thing for me that the old man was unconscious, lest he would come out to cause trouble later when I took action. The ghost baby looked at me coldly, then raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and slowly said, I want to kill you." The ghost baby's voice is very childish and is no different from the milky voice of a child. But the killing intent and coldness contained in it are fatal. The puppet made a clicking sound, then stiffened and walked toward me step by step mechanically. Looking at the puppet coming towards me, my heart slowly sank. The puppets pose no threat to me, the real danger to me is the ghost baby. I took a deep breath, picked up Leiju, and planned to test the current strength of this ghost baby. At that time, Su Tianqian was not able to kill him immediately because of the obstruction of hundreds of ghosts. But now that there is no Hyaki, I don't know if I can subdue it. Dazzling lightning burst out from my palm, and then I rushed towards the ghost baby in one stride. Sudden. The clicking sound coming from the puppet became louder and louder, and his speed became more and more agile. Just when the thunder Jew in my hand was about to touch the ghost baby, the puppet suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed my wrist. The puppet was so powerful that it clamped my wrist tightly like an iron vise. The thunder Jew hit had no effect on him, which surprised me a little. What kind of existence is this puppet? My movement was restricted, and the ghost baby jumped up directly from the puppet's shoulder, opened its bloody mouth and bit me. With a serious look on my face, I activated the heavenly secret. 4 blank golden talismans appeared from between my eyebrows, and then surrounded me. I thought about it first, and an obscure talisman instantly appeared on a blank talisman. I shouted loudly, and powerful thunder and lightning burst out from the talisman. I hit the ghost baby directly, and the ghost baby was instantly knocked away by me. Time was urgent just now, so what I drew was the 5 thunder talisman, which can also be regarded as a kind of thunder method. The ghost baby was knocked away by me, but the puppet still held my wrist tightly. Looking at the puppet's numb expression, an idea emerged from my mind. Since this doll still retains its own consciousness, it means that there must be a soul in this wooden body. Thinking of this, my expression became extremely determined, and I activated my soul-stealing blood hand. In an instant, scarlet blood spread to my entire right arm. At the moment when the blood appeared, my right arm sank directly into the puppet's chest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 336. Just as I thought, this wooden doll has a soul inside it. It is somewhat inaccurate to say boarding. It should be said to be confinement. I grabbed the soul directly and pulled it away. The moment the soul came out, the originally upright puppet fell to the ground. A ghost with a similar appearance and body shape to the puppet appeared in front of me. His brows were full of surprise, and he opened his mouth. He was about to say something, but I pulled him away. At the same time, the ghost baby rushed towards me again. I took a step back, waved my right hand, and the remaining 3 blank golden talismans floated in front of me. I picked up the sword formula and drew it at an extremely fast speed. Talisman of wood, talisman of water, and talisman of earth. I waved my arm again, and the wooden talisman burst out with a dazzling blue light. The next moment, countless vines appeared out of thin air and directly wrapped and bound the ghost baby. These vines are covered with thorns, and these small and sharp thorns pierce directly into the ghost baby's body. The ghost baby let out a shrill howl. I didn't dare to be careless when I saw the ghost baby being restrained. Activate the water talisman and the earth talisman again. These 2 talismans were superimposed, and the road under Guiying's feet changed instantly. The originally asphalt ground turned into a quagmire, and the ghost baby fell rapidly and fell into the quagmire. I have used all 4 heavenly secret talismans, but there is still one final step left to control the ghost baby. I tried to summon a secret talisman again. A strong dizziness hit me. I gritted my teeth, endured the discomfort in my body, and summoned a heavenly secret book again. At the same time that Tianmi appeared, my legs softened and I almost fell to the ground. I quickly held onto the front of the car. He used his last strength to draw a fire talisman. The scorching fire baked the quagmire, and in the blink of an eye the quagmire was dried up, while the ghost baby was firmly controlled in the dried quagmire. Xiaoyui quickly came to my side and asked, "Brother, how are you?" I shook my head at Xiaoyui. The consumption of secrets this day was simply too great. I looked at the ghost baby. At this time, the ghost baby had a small head tightly exposed. He struggled desperately and looked at me with vicious eyes. Now is the best time to kill the ghost baby. However, I can no longer fight now. It is still difficult to completely solve the ghost baby. I took a deep breath, opened the car door, and picked up Jingxiao, which Su Tianxian had handed over to me before leaving. Regardless of whether I can get rid of the ghost baby, I will give it a try. Even if I can't get rid of it, it is still good to seriously injure him. Holding Jingxiao in hand, I came to the ghost baby. Pick up the bloody thunder Ju again. The bloody lightning spread to the Jingxiao sword, and it looked like a blood-red dragon coiled around the Jingxiao sword. When the ghost baby saw me approaching him, the look of resentment in his eyes became more intense. I raised my Jingxiao and stabbed at Guiying's forehead. Only a sonorous sound was heard, and the tip of Jingxiao's sword stopped at the center of Guiying's eyebrows. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart, how powerful this ghost baby's body was. With the blessing of the bloody hand, it is still impenetrable. My expression condensed, and I used force again, and the tip of the sword slowly pierced the ghost baby's forehead. The ghost baby let out a heart-rending roar. The sound penetrated my eardrums and made my head feel a little dizzy. I pressed hard again, and the tip of the sword completely penetrated the ghost baby's forehead. But I couldn't penetrate it even a little bit. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. The ghost baby yelled at me bitterly. At this moment, my cell phone suddenly rang. It was Ruohong calling. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 337. I glanced at the ghost baby. I had lost too much energy and could no longer destroy it. We can only place our hope in Ruohong to see if she can find a way to restrain the ghost baby. I answered the phone and heard her anxious questioning voice. Lusu. What happened to you? Just as I was about to answer, I felt a powerful yin energy erupting from the ghost baby. I calmed down and said to Xiaoyui, get in the car quickly. Xiaoyui quickly opened the car door and got in. I glanced at the unconscious old man and carried him into the car without any hesitation. Then he said to the male ghost in the puppet, follow me. The male ghost nodded. I sat in the driver's seat and started the car, and it started easily this time. I think it was because of the ghost baby. I stepped on the accelerator, and the engine roared. At the same time, the quagmire that bound the ghost baby gradually broke. I pressed the accelerator to the floor and the car roared towards me. When the car passed by the ghost baby, I saw out of the corner of my eye that it had broken free from the quagmire. But it had no intention of continuing to attack me. Instead, it stood there and looked at me with evil eyes. Soon, I distanced myself from the ghost baby. The ghost baby could no longer be seen in the rear-view mirror. I drove fast on the highway, worried all the way, for fear that the ghost baby would catch up with me again. But until I returned to Jiyuntang, the ghost baby never appeared again. I know that the ghost baby will not stop hunting me. He was injured by my Jingxiao, so he shouldn't be able to find me in a short time. I must take advantage of this time to find the evil spirits and think of ways to deal with the ghost babies in advance. I parked the car and saw Ruohong pacing back and forth at the door of Jiyuntang, looking very anxious. When she saw me, she let out a long sigh of relief. She trotted up to me and asked with concern, Lusu, are you okay? I shook my head at her and said, I'm fine. I carried the old man into Jiyun Hall and placed him on the 8 Immortals chair. Miao Fengluan heard the noise on the first floor and hurried down. When he saw me, he quickly came to me and asked, Lusu, how are you? Rest assured. After resting for a while, the old man still didn't wake up. Miao Fengluan stood beside me and suddenly said, Lusu, Brother 11 has come to see you. Zhang Shii is looking for me? I quickly asked, why did he come to me? Miao Fengluan replied, I don't know either. I just asked you to contact him when you come back and say that he has something to ask you. I nodded and asked, how is Huaxiu? Miao Fengluan sighed, Sister Huaxiu is still sleeping. When Xiaoyui heard the word Huaxiu, her expression became a little excited. She quickly took my hand and said, Brother, where is Madam? I want to see her. I looked at Miao Fengluan and said, take Xiaoyui to meet Huaxiu. Miao Fengluan nodded, and then took Xiaoyui to the second floor. At this moment, I also calmed down, looked at the male ghost, and asked, what's the matter with you? I actually had a very clear purpose in bringing the male ghost back. Because Su Tianqian said that the ghost baby will find someone related to the god. And this ghost baby was the first to find the young man in front of him after escaping from the town. Therefore, I guessed that the person in front of me must be related to Shensha. The male ghost opened his mouth and said, "After I was killed, my soul was imprisoned in the puppet." Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 338. The whole thing was pretty much what I expected. The man in front of me is named Yang Min, a sophomore at school. One day, at the instigation of his roommate, he went to explore the haunted abandoned dormitory building in their school. As a result, he fell into a coma as soon as he entered the dormitory building. When he woke up again, he was locked in a puppet. When I heard this, I frowned instantly. The male ghost revealed very little information and could not judge anything at all. I escaped one night and went home to see my parents one last time. At this time, Ruohong suddenly interjected, "Confining a person's soul in a puppet can only be done by the descendants of the Sheng Sheng Juju." When I heard the words Yanshenshu, I was slightly startled and looked at Ruohong with some doubts. Ruohong explained, "The art of hating victory comes from the Luban Sutra. In ancient times, craftsmen had a low status. Many unscrupulous employers would bully them and deduct wages. When they felt deeply unhappy, they would use the art of hating victory during construction. Take revenge. This technique can influence a person's feng shui fortune and even cause death." Hearing this, I suddenly realized that this is the folk evil magic that my grandfather told me when I was a child. It's basically a curse. I looked at the male ghost, hesitated again and again, took out my mobile phone and called Zhang Xiai. I vaguely feel that this matter is related to the evil spirit. Soon, Zhang Xiai arrived at Ji Yuntang. I didn't talk nonsense to him and told him the whole thing directly. Zhang Xiai pondered for a moment after listening, then raised his head and said, "I came to you a few days ago because I found a clue to the next Giluan Shat." I was stunned. The action of this 11 was too fast. As soon as I encountered the 10 great defeats, he found clues to Guluan Shat. I motioned to Zhang Xiai to continue. Zhang Xiai glanced at the male ghost and said, "I just calculated that you would encounter an imprisoned soul, and this soul is the clue to Guluan Shat." After Zhang Xiai said this, he thought for a while and said, "You will encounter a ghost baby in the process of dealing with this matter. This ghost baby is very difficult to deal with and will bring you a lot of trouble. It's better to make some preparations in advance." After listening to Zhang Xiai's words, I admired him extremely. Unexpectedly, his divination skills were so miraculous. I even figured out that I would encounter a ghost baby. But then I thought about it, and the divination skills of their credit card holders should be unique and very different from ordinary divination techniques. I nodded and said, "Without further ado, let's go to that school and have a look." Zhang Xiai waved his hand and replied, "Don't worry about this first, have a good rest for a day. That school is haunted, and the school is looking for capable people to solve the problem. I will communicate with you, and then we can go to the school to do things legitimately." I smiled at Zhang Xiai and said, "You are quite thoughtful." Zhang Xiai laughed and replied, "I will naturally take your matter seriously." After saying that, Zhang Xiai left in a hurry. After Zhang Xiai left, I focused my attention on the male ghost and asked, "Remember carefully, was there anything unusual before entering the dormitory?" The male ghost was silent for a long time, then raised his head, his expression became a little weird, and said, "My roommate Sun Wenchinge is a little weird." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 339. I motioned for him to continue. The male ghost pondered for a moment and replied, "Sun Wenchinge had a childhood sweetheart. They planned to get married after graduating from college, but her girlfriend suddenly suffered from an emergency and passed away some time ago. Ever since his girlfriend died, he has become very strange and likes to play with small wooden objects. Small wooden objects. This is directly linked to the art of aversion to victory. Later, I asked about other things. The male ghosts told each other one by one. After asking, I stood up and said to the male ghost, "Okay, you can't stay in the human world for too long, I will send you to the underworld to be reincarnated." The male ghost was stunned for a moment, then looked at his father, and then let out a long sigh. I asked, "Is there anything you want to say to your father?" The male ghost opened his mouth, and finally shook his head and said, "No, I am a dead person. Saying more will only make my family more sad." I nodded towards the male ghost, and then activated the power of the ghost to summon the gate of the underworld. The male ghost knelt in front of the old man, kowtowed to the old man 3 times, and then said, "Dad, my child is unfilial. I will honor your old age again in my next life." After saying that, the male ghost got up and walked into the gate of the underworld. Not long after the male ghost left, the old man woke up. With tears in his eyes, he asked me about his son. I can only tell the truth, saying that his son passed away, probably because the school did not notify him. When the old man learned this fact, he looked sad and left Ji Yuntang in despair. After the old man left, Ruohong hesitated and said to me, "Lu Su, if you need my help, just ask." I smiled at Ruohong and replied, "Yes." Afterwards, Ruohong also left here. After a while, Xiaorui also walked down from the 2nd floor. Her brows were filled with joy. It seemed that she was very happy to see Huaxiu. I rested for a day at Ji Yuntang. Early the next morning, Zhang Xi came to me and said that things had been arranged and he could go to the school to take a look now. I nodded and said to Miao Fengluan, "Just stay with me these days and don't run around." Miao Fengluan is the last of the 5 great evil spirits. I must protect her. The 3 of us went to Tianfu First University and met the principal in the principal's office. Zhang Xi introduced to the principal, "This is Master Tianxuan's disciple, Lu Su." When the principal heard the words Master Tianxian, his eyes lit up. He hurriedly stepped forward and extended his hand to me, flattering me. I didn't expect Master Tianxuan's disciples to be so young. It's true that a hero comes from a young age. I could only smile in response to the principal's flattery. I asked about the haunting, but the principal smiled at me and said, "Master Lu, don't worry, there are still a few distinguished guests who have not arrived. I will tell you later." As soon as he finished speaking, the door to the principal's office was opened directly. 2 Taoist priests wearing Taoist robes came in. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 340. The 2 of them are disciples of Taoist elder Wuchenzi, and they are considered to be prominent among the younger generation of Taoist section. A member of the Taoist sect? How did you end up here by such a coincidence? Is it possible that they also know the whereabouts of Gu Luansha? Zhang Xi continued, although the 2 of them are far less powerful than Wuchenzi's disciple, but... He paused and continued, however, they should have other purposes for coming here. It is very likely that they are also looking for Gu Luansha. I nodded. There are many talented people in the Taoist sect, and among them there is certainly no shortage of fortune tellers who can do calculations. It is reasonable to be able to calculate the clues of Gu Luansha. The 3 of us walked around the university. To be honest, I also feel a little regretful. After my grandfather died, I dropped out of school. It was also the first time for Miao Fengluan to come to this kind of environment, and her star-like eyes looked at everything here curiously. Before we knew it, we arrived at the abandoned girls' dormitory. The girls' dormitory in front of me is located in the corner of the campus, backed by mountains, and the weeds on the mountains have grown into the campus. In addition, the building is surrounded by iron fences and overgrown with grass inside. From a distance, it looks like an eerie haunted house. The entire dormitory building has about a dozen floors, and some doors and windows have been broken. I can clearly feel the cold wind pouring out from inside. All in all, this dormitory building feels ominous. Jong 11 looked at the dormitory building, pondered for a moment, and said, "You come alone tonight, I'm going to prepare some things." I nodded. Ever since I met Zhang Shi, he always disappeared. I can also understand his behavior. After Zhang Shi said this, he left in a hurry. "You won't find anything if you enter here during the day, you can only wait until night." It's evening. Miao Fengluan and I headed to the abandoned girls' dormitory. Suddenly, I felt like I was being watched. I looked around, and there were all brightly dressed college students everywhere, and I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. The moment I looked away, I suddenly glanced at a tree not far away from the corner of my eye. There stood a young man. The young man has a delicate appearance and a thin figure, but his face is filled with a layer of gloom. I frowned. Something was wrong with this person. Just when I wanted to step forward to check, the man suddenly turned and left. I quickly chased after Miao Fengluan. The two of us followed the man all the way to a cheap hotel. The man opened a room. Seeing this, I quickly opened a room next to the room the man had opened. My intuition told me that this man was very strange, and he exuded an ominous aura. This person is probably Sun Wenqing. Soon, night falls. The moon hangs high in the night sky, and the cold moonlight pours down, casting a hazy silvery white layer over the world, making it difficult for people to see through. At this moment, a dark wind came. I looked around cautiously and heard a familiar voice ringing in my ears. "Why are you so nervous?" The next moment, Master Ghost appeared in front of me. He was wearing a black gown, with a handsome face and a strong body. He glanced at me lightly and said, "You are worthless, and I can't do anything to you." A wry smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. This ghost young master would try to hurt me as soon as he appeared. It was about 12 o'clock in the night, and I suddenly heard the sound of the door opening next door,